Hello, I'm Hope Logan. I am an actor on Bold and the Beautiful, and many people really love both me and our Bold and the Beautiful drama. So I've come here to share updates about my beloved Bold and the Beautiful. Everyone, please subscribe and support me. If you do, I will keep coming every day with new updates for you. The halls of the Forrester mansion had always carried the weight of legacy, power, and generations of family ambition. But now, a new storm was quietly gathering beneath the polished glamour of the fashion empire. What once seemed like a stable leadership structure at Forrester Creations was beginning to crack under the pressure of pride, loyalty, and dangerous ambition. For a long time, Brooke Logan Forrester appeared content with her place within the executive team, standing beside Ridge Forrester while allowing Steffy Forrester Finnegan to share control of the company. There had been balance, even if it was fragile, and everyone seemed willing to coexist for the sake of the family business. But somewhere along the way, that balance shifted, and the catalyst behind it all was none other than Hope Logan Spencer. Hope planted an idea that slowly took root deep inside Brooke's heart, an idea that began as a whisper but quickly grew into something impossible to ignore. Suddenly, being part of the executive circle no longer felt like enough for Brooke, because now she wanted more than influence. She wanted the throne itself. As the days passed, Brooke's vision became clearer and far more dangerous. She no longer saw herself simply supporting the company from the sidelines while Steffi shared power with Ridge. Instead, Brooke began imagining herself seated beside Ridge as his true equal, co-leading the dynasty in the same iconic way Eric Forrester and Stephanie Forrester once ruled together. It was not just about business anymore. It became deeply personal, emotional, and symbolic. Brooke could practically see herself stepping into the place Stephanie once held, carrying the Forrester legacy forward as Ridge's powerful partner at the top of the company. The idea consumed her more with every passing moment, until eventually she reached a shocking conclusion. Steffi needed to be removed from the co-CEO position entirely. Brooke wanted Ridge at the top beside her and no one else, and once that desire took hold, there was no turning back. What makes the situation even more explosive is the possibility that Eric Forrester himself may not oppose Brooke's vision at all. In fact, when Eric eventually learns what Brooke has been pushing behind closed doors, he may find himself unexpectedly drawn to the idea. Eric has always carried a complicated affection for Brooke, one that has survived countless family wars, betrayals, reconciliations, and heartbreaks over the years. No matter how much chaos surrounded her, Eric often saw something in Brooke that others either ignored or refused to understand. So when Brooke comes to him emotionally, speaking from the heart about legacy, destiny, and the partnership she dreams of building with Ridge, Eric may find it impossible to resist her plea. One can almost picture Brooke standing before him with passion in her eyes, reminiscing about everything Eric and Stephanie built together over decades. She may remind him how they stood side by side as partners, rulers of a fashion empire and pillars of the family legacy. And then, with quiet determination, Brooke may confess that she wants the same future with Ridge, not just as husband and wife, but as the next great leadership duo of Forrester Creations. For Eric, those words could strike an emotional chord deeper than anyone expects. The memories of Stephanie, the empire they built together, and the power they once held may suddenly blur together with Brooke's vision for the future. In Eric's eyes, Brooke and Ridge could begin to resemble a continuation of that legendary partnership, a new era carrying echoes of the old one. And if Eric truly embraces that belief, it could lead him to make a devastating choice, supporting Brooke even if it means turning against his own granddaughter. The emotional betrayal hidden within that possibility is enormous. Eric has always loved Steffi fiercely, and yet his soft spot for Brooke may outweigh family loyalty in this particular battle. If he sides with Brooke and quietly roots for Steffi's removal from power, the damage to the family could become irreversible. The very foundation of trust inside the Forrester dynasty would begin to splinter apart. And when Steffi inevitably discovers what has been happening behind her back, the fallout could be absolutely explosive. For Steffy, this would not simply feel like a professional disagreement over company leadership. It would feel like betrayal from every direction imaginable. The thought of her own grandfather supporting Brooke's rise while pushing her aside would cut deeply, reopening old wounds and reigniting years of tension that never fully disappeared. Steffy has fought tirelessly for her place inside Forrester Creations, defending the company, protecting the family legacy, and proving herself as a leader worthy of the Forrester name. To suddenly face the possibility of being demoted for Brooke's personal ambitions would leave her furious, humiliated, and emotionally shattered all at once. But Eric would not be the only target of her rage. Ridge himself could soon find himself caught directly in the center of the firestorm. Steffy may blame her father for allowing Brooke's ambitions to spiral out of control in the first place. From Steffy's perspective, Ridge has spent years protecting Brooke, defending her mistakes, and giving her endless chances no matter how much conflict she creates inside the family. This latest situation may finally push Steffy beyond her breaking point. She could confront Ridge with painful honesty, accusing him of coddling Brooke and letting her get away with far too much for far too long. To Steffy, this may look less like a business decision and more like another example of Ridge prioritizing Brooke over everyone else around him. That realization alone could ignite emotional wounds between father and daughter that may take a very long time to heal. Meanwhile, Hope Logan Spencer's involvement in the situation threatens to pour gasoline onto an already raging fire. Steffy will almost certainly realize that Hope played a major role in encouraging Brooke to pursue the co-CEO position, and that discovery may push Steffy into an entirely new level of fury. Tensions between Hope and Steffy have already been simmering dangerously close to eruption for quite some time, fueled by personal grudges, professional clashes, and years of unresolved resentment. But this situation could become the final straw that sends everything crashing down. In Steffy's eyes, Hope will not simply be offering support to her mother. She will be seen as actively plotting to take power away from the Forresters themselves. The resentment Steffy already carries toward Hope could intensify into something far more vicious and personal, creating a war that threatens to spread throughout the entire company. Still, despite the growing conflicts surrounding her, Steffy will not surrender quietly. Anyone who knows Steffy Forrester understands that she does not back down from a fight, especially when the future of Forrester Creations is at stake. She will likely fight with everything she has to protect her leadership position beside Ridge, refusing to let Brooke force her out without resistance. But even as Steffy prepares for battle, unsettling cracks may begin to appear within the company itself. Some employees could start quietly questioning whether a change in leadership might actually benefit Forrester Creations. Others may become intrigued by the possibility of Brooke and Ridge leading together as a new power couple at the top. Those whispers alone could create a dangerous divide inside the company, turning coworkers into rivals and transforming the workplace into a battlefield of loyalty, ambition, and betrayal. As tensions rise higher with every passing day, the future of Forrester Creations begins to feel more uncertain than ever before. What started as a simple conversation between Hope and Brooke has now evolved into a potential corporate war capable of tearing the entire family apart. Loyalties are shifting, emotions are boiling over, and every relationship inside the Forrester dynasty is being tested under unbearable pressure. The deeper Brooke pushes this dream of becoming co-CEO, the more impossible it becomes for anyone to remain neutral. Eric may soon be forced to choose between his granddaughter and the woman who has always held a unique place in his heart. Ridge may find himself trapped between his daughter and his wife, and Steffy, wounded and enraged, may prepare to fight harder than ever before to defend her place in the empire that carries her family's name. One thing is becoming painfully clear: the drama inside Forrester Creations is only beginning, and the emotional fallout from this battle could change the family forever. The tension inside Forrester Creations soon begins to spread like a slow-moving wildfire, creeping through every office hallway, every design meeting, and every whispered conversation behind closed doors. What was once only speculation suddenly starts feeling dangerously real as Brooke Logan Forrester grows more confident in her vision for the future. The idea of standing beside Ridge as co-CEO no longer feels like a fantasy she quietly keeps to herself. It becomes something she starts pursuing with increasing determination, and the more convinced Brooke becomes, the more unsettled the entire company begins to feel. Employees who once admired the strength of Steffi and Ridge's leadership now find themselves caught in an uncomfortable atmosphere of uncertainty, watching carefully as invisible battle lines begin to form across the fashion empire. Some remain fiercely loyal to Steffi, believing she earned her place through years of sacrifice and relentless dedication. Others quietly wonder whether Brooke's experience, charisma, and long history with the company could bring a different kind of energy to the executive floor. And in the center of it all stands Ridge, pulled in opposite directions by the two most important women in his life. For Ridge, the pressure becomes almost unbearable. Every conversation feels loaded with emotional landmines, every decision threatening to destroy someone he loves. On one side is Steffi, his daughter, a woman who inherited not only the Forrester name, but also the fierce determination that once defined Stephanie herself. Ridge has watched Steffi fight for this company through scandal, heartbreak, betrayal, and endless family chaos. He knows how much the co-CEO position means to her because he understands that for Steffi, it represents more than power. It represents respect, legacy, and proof that she belongs at the head of the dynasty. But on the other side stands Brooke, the woman Ridge has loved through decades of passion, conflict, separation, and reunion. Brooke's belief in their future together touches something emotional deep inside him when she talks about building a legacy beside him, about becoming the next great leadership pair of Forrester Creations. Ridge cannot completely dismiss the dream she paints before him, and that emotional conflict begins tearing him apart from the inside. Meanwhile, Brooke starts leaning more heavily into the symbolism of what she believes this moment could become. She begins speaking less like an executive seeking a promotion and more like a woman chasing destiny itself. In private moments with Ridge, she may passionately describe how the company needs unity, evolution, and a leadership team capable of carrying Forrester into a bold new era. But beneath her polished arguments lies something far more emotional and personal. Brooke wants validation. She wants to feel chosen not just as Ridge's wife, but as his true equal in every possible sense. For years, she stood beside powerful men while constantly battling criticism, judgment, and rejection from parts of the Forrester family. Becoming co-CEO beside Ridge would symbolize victory over every moment she was ever made to feel like an outsider. And that emotional hunger makes her pursuit all the more intense. As rumors continue circulating throughout the company, Steffi's frustration slowly transforms into raw fury. Every new whisper about Brooke potentially taking her place feels like another stab in the back. Worse still, Steffi begins noticing subtle shifts in behavior around her. Conversations stop when she enters rooms. Employees exchange nervous glances during meetings. Even longtime allies appear hesitant, unsure of which side they should ultimately support if the conflict escalates into a full-scale power struggle. The isolation begins weighing heavily on Steffi, but instead of weakening her, it only sharpens her resolve. She refuses to let Brooke push her out of the company her family built. In Steffi's mind, Brooke's ambitions are not about strengthening Forrester Creations at all. They are about control, ego, and rewriting the balance of power within the family itself. That growing resentment inevitably circles back toward Hope Logan Spencer. The more Steffi thinks about the situation, the more convinced she becomes that Hope deliberately fueled Brooke's ambitions, knowing exactly how destructive the fallout would be. To Steffi, Hope did not innocently encourage her mother to dream bigger. She lit the match that started the fire. Their already fragile relationship begins deteriorating at an alarming pace as old wounds and buried resentments rise violently back to the surface. Every past rivalry between them suddenly feels relevant again, from personal betrayals to professional clashes and years of emotional competition that neither woman ever truly let go of. The hostility becomes impossible to hide, and people throughout the company begin sensing that another explosive confrontation between Hope and Steffi may be inevitable. At the center of the storm, Eric Forrester finds himself reflecting more deeply on the family legacy than ever before. Brooke's words linger in his mind long after their conversations end, awakening memories of Stephanie and the empire they built together from the ground up. Eric remembers the passion, the ambition, and the feeling of having a true partner beside him through every triumph and disaster. In Brooke and Ridge, he starts seeing echoes of that same dynamic, and the emotional nostalgia becomes difficult to ignore. Yet, despite those feelings, Eric also understands the devastating consequences his support could have on Steffi. He knows how deeply she values family loyalty and how personally she would take any sign that he favors Brooke over her. The weight of that realization begins pressing heavily on him, forcing him into an impossible emotional position where every choice risks hurting someone he loves. But if Eric ultimately decides to back Brooke publicly, the consequences could explode far beyond private family arguments. Such a move would instantly legitimize Brooke's campaign for power and send shockwaves through the entire company. Employees who were previously uncertain might suddenly rally behind the idea of a new leadership era, while Steffi's supporters could become even more defensive and combative. The once glamorous world of fashion and creativity would quickly transform into a ruthless battlefield of alliances, manipulation, and emotional warfare. Meetings could become tense and hostile. Family dinners could descend into painful confrontations. Even the walls of the Forrester mansion may begin feeling heavy with resentment and betrayal as relationships fracture under the strain. And perhaps the most heartbreaking part of it all is that beneath the corporate power struggle lies a family slowly tearing itself apart. What began as a conversation about leadership has evolved into something much darker. A battle over identity, legacy, and belonging. Brooke wants recognition for the life she built beside Ridge. Steffi wants to protect the place she fought so hard to earn. Hope wants her mother to finally receive the respect she believes Brooke deserves. Eric wants to preserve the legacy of partnership that once defined his own life with Stephanie. And Ridge, caught painfully between them all, may soon be forced to make a choice capable of changing the family forever. As the emotional stakes continue rising, one thing becomes impossible to deny. The future of Forrester Creations is no longer simply about fashion, business, or executive titles. It has become a deeply personal war fueled by love, pride, resentment, loyalty, and years of unresolved emotional scars. Every glance carries tension. Every conversation feels dangerous. And with Brooke refusing to back down and Steffi preparing to fight with everything she has, the collision waiting ahead feels not only inevitable, but potentially devastating for everyone involved.